Hello and welcome back to the Second Chance to Live channel here on YouTube. I'm happy to see that you decided to watch this video presentation. Thank you. In today's video presentation, I'm going to be doing a revision of a video presentation that I created several weeks ago. The article that I made this video presentation is called Living with a Brain Injury and an Invisible Disability. How are you defining success? So in order to read the article here on this video presentation, I'll bring up the article. So living with a brain injury and an invisible disability, how are you defining success? As individuals living with brain injuries, we can be led to believe that our lives no longer matter, that being successful is out of our reach. This thinking and belief can be reinforced by many sources in society as we live our lives with the impact of a brain injury and an invisible disability. Sources that may minimize, marginalize, dismiss, and discount our capacity to contribute and thrive in society. Professionals that we interact with as individuals living with brain injuries, family members and friends, as well as other individuals living with brain injuries. Individuals who feel stuck by their brain injuries, deficits, and limitations. As a result, we may be led to believe, what's the point, and give up on our dreams. So, defining success for ourselves after a brain injury. In my experience, I found that there are several traps that can leave you and me feeling like we are failures. We can be led to believe that because of our brain injuries that we are failures. Consequently, we may find ourselves focusing on what we cannot change, what happened to us. As a result, we may find ourselves feeling trapped by the notion that we are now helpless and hopeless because of a box of limiting expectations, unknowingly and unconsciously. In response, we may find ourselves buying into the notion that we are victims of our circumstances, that we are subservient to a limiting societal system that communicates to us that we are unable to make empowering choices. Empowering choices that will give us the ability to move out of and beyond the box of a label, a stereotype, and a stigmatization, that we are unable to express our gifts, talents, and abilities to create and enhance our lives as individuals living with brain injuries, that we are limited by and in our ability to contribute to the lives of individuals living within and without the brain injury community. So, how are we defining success as individuals living with brain injuries, I ask? Another trap that we may find ourselves falling into is believing that we are failures because our lives are not marked by what other people have acquired. That our lives are failures because of our station in life, be it disabled by society's standards. And that being disabled does not give us the means to be able to acquire or possess what society considers to be measures of success. In response, we may have people in our lives who subsequently patronize who we are as individuals by their attitudes. We may consequently feel minimized, marginalized, dismissed, and discounted as individuals. We may subsequently find ourselves buying into the notion that our lives are of little significance and value without the ability to acquire societal measures of success. In the process, we may find ourselves accepting that what society has set for us to control and contain who we are as individuals. Individuals living with the impact of a brain injury through a label, stereotype, and stigmatization, set for us to meet and fulfill their agendas. In the process, we may find ourselves going along to get along, not realizing that there are other choices that we can make to empower and enhance our creative capacity to enrich our lives. But there is good news. We can create a different set of opportunities. We can set a different course. We can make self directed choices. Therefore, we no longer have to stay stuck. We no longer have to buy into society's measures of success. Instead, we can define success for ourselves. The good news is that through being aware of these notions as individuals living with brain injuries, we can make choices. We don't have to buy into the impact of a label, stereotype, and stigmatization. Instead, we can make the choice to express our creative capabilities and capacity. Here's a quote that I like. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid, by Albert Einstein. The good news is that we no longer need to focus on what we cannot accomplish. Instead, we can be aware of our limitations and deficits and stop fighting against ourselves. We can use our energy and discover what we have and what we can do in ways that will work for us. Another quote or another thought is the good news is that we can stop trading our judgment for the judgment of other people. What I have found through my process and journey living with a brain injury and an invisible disability is that I am not my brain injury nor my invisible disabilities. I am not my deficits or limitations. I am who I am and I am enough. And in my experience to realizing that I was and am not my brain injury or my invisible disability, I discovered that I am so much more than my brain injury. I am more than capable of creating through and with the gifts, talents, and abilities given to me by a loving God through my mind, body, spirit, and emotions. And that's what I believe that, we're a whole person, not just our brain, we're a body, soul, spirit, mind, and emotion. So it's really important through our recovery process, living with a brain injury, to work on developing our uh, mind, body, soul, spirit, and emotions. So I'm much more than my brain injury and my invisible disabilities. I can develop my mind, body, spirit, and emotions to create with my gifts, talents, and abilities. So what I've come to realize is that my mind is where I gather information that will give me the ability to make empowering choices and decisions. My body is the ability to develop the capacity to express myself physically, to pursue my dreams and goals, to empower my life. My spirit helps me to develop sensitivity to communicate with the God of my understanding of myself. My soul develops my awareness of the patterns of my relationships as I interact with myself and with the world around me. And my emotions is how I interpret, respond, rather than react to what occurs in my life and relationships. A big realization that changed my life and relationships. With this realization, I discovered something that changed the quality of my life, well being, and relationships. I could define success for myself through my mind, body, spirit, soul, and emotions in ways that work for me. Through this realization, I realized that I no longer had to buy into a faulty belief system. I realized that I no longer needed to be defined by my brain injury and visible disability or by focusing on my deficits or limitations. A poem that helps me to come to terms with what I need to change, and what I've needed to change, or what I needed to do is I needed to grieve my brain injury, the impact of my brain injury. I needed to reach a bottom where, I needed to confront my denial in order to move beyond what I thought I could not do. In order to discover what I could do, I needed to face my denial, confront my denial. I needed to be angry for a time. I needed to try to bargain my way out of not being a brain injury survivor, or a person impacted by a brain injury that couldn't impact their world or couldn't impact my life in a positive way to pursue my dreams. And I had to go through a period of depression in order to get to a place of acceptance. And acceptance allowed me to get into action because I realized that I had choices. And these choices allowed me to begin to create hope in my life. So this is the power of choice. And this is a poem, There's a Hole in My Sidewalk. Autobiography in 5 short chapters by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street, there's a hole in the sidewalk. I fall in, I am lost, I am helpless, it is my fault. It isn't my fault. It takes me forever to find my way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the street, there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It is a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. So, walking down a different street, the poem illustrates my journey through the grieving process that I talked about. I can confront my denial, chapter 1, experience and come to terms with my anger, chapter 2. Excuse me, try to bargain my way out of what I could not be changed, chapter 3, bargaining. Find myself depressed by recognizing what I could not change in chapter 4, and by accepting that what could not be changed, I made a different choice. I got into awareness, moved through awareness, acceptance, and action. Excuse me. So realizing that I could make empowering choices. The good news is that we can choose to walk down a different street and try something new that is unique to our gifts, talents, and abilities. In the process, we can begin to define what success means and looks like for us. Several months ago, I created 12 ways to enhance our lives, well-being, and relationships, which in essence helps me to create success in my life, success in ways that work for me. So these are the 12 steps or the 12 ways to enhance my relationship, my well-being, and my life in general. I admitted that we are powerless over the impact and the effects of our brain injury and invisible disability, that our lives have forever been changed because of our brain injury. Although we are powerless over the impact of our brain injury and our invisible disability, we are not helpless. As a result, we no longer need to feel like a victim or that we are helpless because of our brain injury or invisible disability. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can help us to accept that we are powerless to change the impact of our brain injury and our invisible disability. Consequently, we can rely on the power that many of us have found to be God. We can rely on a loving God to help us to stop sabotaging and undermining our lives, well-beings, and relationships by trying not to be impacted by a brain injury. We can rely on a loving God to help us to accept ourselves and to create a good life for ourselves. 3. With this awareness, we need this power in our lives. We can make a decision to ask Him, a loving God, to lead and guide our process and journey. We no longer have to figure things out on our own. Instead, we can ask Him to help us own our power. Own our power as individuals living with brain injury and an invisible disability. Own our power through what we can do, not what we can't do. Own our power, what is in our power to control in our mind, body, spirit, soul, and emotions in ways that will work for us a little at a time and one day at a time. Excuse me. 4. With the help of a loving God, we can begin to examine areas of our lives that no longer work for us, that undermine and sabotage our lives and our well-beings and our relationships. With the help of a loving God, we can look for patterns such as defense mechanisms in which we defend, answer, and explain what we cannot do. Patterns that keep you and I feeling like a victim of our brain injury and invisible disability in our circumstances. 5. We no longer have to remain isolated because we are no longer able to accomplish with our lives. By admitting to ourselves, a loving God, and another person that we are unable to accomplish what we are unable to accomplish, we can come out of the shadows of isolation and break free from feelings of alienation. Alienation from ourselves, a loving God, and other people because of what we cannot accomplish. In the process, we can learn how to trust again. Trust the loving God, ourselves, and other people. 6, through being sick and tired of being sick and tired of getting the same results, we become willing to try something different. Try something different to get different results. Through being willing, we can ask a loving God to help us to stop doing the things that no longer work. In the process, we become entirely ready to let go of what no longer works for us. 7, through being ready to let go of what no longer works for us, we can be actively involved in the process of discovering how to use our gifts, talents, and abilities in ways that will work for us. We can humbly ask a loving God to help us in this process, in the process of self-discovery. In the process of letting go and discovering what works for us, we can have peace in our lives and relationships. 8, through letting go of what no longer works, we can pursue what works for us. We can stop being a prisoner of our deficits and limitations. As a result, we can stop fighting against and with ourselves by trying to prove that we do not have those deficits and limitations. We can become the individuals that we decide to be in our lives. 9, we can let go of the life that we had planned to create a life that works for us. In the process, we can learn how to own the power in our mind, body, spirit, soul, and emotions. We can create a new normal in ways that work for us through our mind, body, soul, spirit, and emotions. 10, we don't have to figure everything out. We don't have to figure out how everything will fit together as we seek to own our power in our mind, body, spirit, soul, and emotions. Instead, we can ask a loving God to guide and direct our steps each day. In the process, we can trust that the dots will connect forward. 11, we can let go of the outcomes by trusting the process of loving God and ourselves. We can learn to trust through doing the footwork and letting go of the outcomes. We can let go of the outcomes one day at a time. We can trust that more will be revealed with time. And 12, as we grow in the understanding of ourselves with the help of a loving God, we continue to use our gifts, talents, and abilities. Use our gifts, talents, and abilities in ways that will work for us. In the process, we can learn from our circumstances, our experiences, our lessons, and opportunities. In the process, we actively participate in our lives, well-beings, and the creation of our destinies. And here are several quotes that inspire me to pursue success in ways that work for me. I was told over and over again that I would never be successful, that I was not going to be competitive, and that the technique was simply not going to work. All I could do is shrug my shoulders and say, we'll just have to see. And that's by Dick Fosbury, the Olympic gold medalist, inventor of the Fosbury flop, which is a high jump technique, the high jump in the Olympics. Another quote, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do, by Helen Keller. Next quote, regardless of your lot in life, you can build something beautiful on it, by Zig Ziglar. Next quote, I cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples, by Mother Teresa. Next quote, it is not as important what happens to us, but how we respond to what happened to us. Craig J. Phillips, MRC, BA. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Or actually, do what you can where you are with what you have, by Theodore Roosevelt. Next quote, don't quit. Never give up never give up trying to build the world you can see, even if others can't see it. Listen to your own drum and your drum only. It's the only one that makes the sweetest sound, by Simon Sinek. Believe in yourself. Go after your dreams and don't let anyone put you in a box. By Dea. Next quote, not everyone will understand your journey. That's okay. You're here to live your life, not to make everyone understand. By Bansky. Next quote, it is not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. By Albert Einstein. Next quote, insist on yourself. Never imitate your own gift. You can present with the cumulative force of a whole life's cultivation, but of the adopted talent, you only have an extemporaneous half possession. Do that which is assigned to you, and you cannot hope too much or dare too much. By Ralph Waldo Emerson. Next quote: seek out that particular mental attribute which makes you feel most deeply and vitally alive, most deeply and vitally along which comes the inner voice which says, this is the real me. And when you have found that attitude, follow it. By James Truesdale Adams. And the last quote is, if you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams and endeavor to live the life that you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected and common hours. By Henry David Thoreau. This is the end of the video presentation of the revised the video presentation of the article, which included the 12 steps. Before I go, or the 12 ways to enhance our lives, well-beings, and relationships. Before I go, let me encourage you with this. Please do not give up on your process of loving God or yourself, because more will be revealed to you and to me with time. The pieces of the puzzle will come together in the correct order and at the right time. I'll say so long for now. Have a great day, and God bless both you and your family. Bye now.